this, and
Definitely.
I'm really sorry about what you're going through. How's your family holding up?
We're hanging in there. It's a roller coaster, right? Because at first it's the shock of everything. We're kind of numb at times, but the fire of finding her, you're not allowed to be numb, right? You have to act. It's definitely waters we've never had to be in, and so we're learning a lot. We're educating ourselves and very busy. My parents, I worry about them because emotionally it's a lot for them, but we're hanging in there, and we're leaning on each other because Paola is usually somebody we would lean on, so we got to be there for her.
When did you find out she went missing?
So we had a feeling Saturday evening that something was wrong because she communicates with us so often during the day that when we didn't hear from her, her phone rang Saturday morning. And
What date was that?
The 18th.
The 18th. Okay.
The 18th
Of December.
Of December. Her phone was ringing in the morning, and then it just started going to voicemail like at 11:30 a.m. And then I usually work on the weekends, so I didn't have too much time to think about it, but my mom immediately was like, Andrea, your sister's not answering. I was like, oh, let her be, give her a moment. But, at 5 p.m. I was like, okay, Mom, I'm worried. And then I was still at work, and we wanted to call to report her missing at that point because we started calling all of her friends, anybody that she could have potentially be with or known about her whereabouts. And everyone's like, no, actually she hasn't answered since yesterday. And then so it started becoming really alarming to us, and we had a myth in our mind that you can't report a person missing until 24 hours or 48 or a certain amount of hours, which is actually completely false. So that's misinformation that's out there. I don't know how we even thought about that, but you can actually report somebody missing whenever. Like, you can report them as soon as you think that they're missing. You can report them.
That's good to know.
Who did you so when you reported her missing, who did you report her with?
So we reported her with Osceola County, and that's because that's where she resides. And so we reported her missing at her home when we went over there, and she wasn't there. My mom reported her, and that was on December 19th, probably like at 6 a.m. We were already reporting her.
And sheriffs came out immediately, took the report?
Yes, so the deputies came out and they took the report. And the only thing I do wish from that, my parents are Spanish speaking, so it would have been nice if they had a translator for her, because I had to translate via FaceTime while watching my 9-month-old. So, with that, I was trying to pay all attention because I felt like every detail is important in this. And so that would have been amazing, because then my mom could have really given them all information coming from, she's the person who knows her best.
Right.
And when you translate, sometimes things are lost in translation if it's not the proper, somebody who's certified to translate.
So that day on the 18th, did you know she went to the park, the state park, that day?
We did not. So honestly, that decision in the morning came as a surprise to us. We had no idea she was heading to the park. The one thing she had said Friday evening is, I'll see you girls tomorrow, because she usually visits me and her niece, my daughter, every weekend, if not every other weekend. But it's like routine for her to just show up, at my house.
So how did you guys find out that she was at that park, the Wekiwa Springs State Park?
So my sister loves water. She loves bodies of water. She goes in the pool all the time, beach, springs, river. Like, that's not an abnormal thing for her. She actually, we call her the fish of the family because she loves water. And so we had ATM transactions that we were able to access via her computer, and we also had e-pass transactions. So the last e-pass transaction put her at a spot, and between my husband and I, we opened up a map and we said, my instinct was, let's go check all the waters, which I told all of this to the detectives immediately as of Monday. But on Monday, I felt like nothing was being done at that point. There was no urgency in the matter, and I felt like I had the information, so we needed to get out there and search for her. I couldn't wait for, they said that they just had to wait on leads, that whatever we found, we could give to them, which was not enough for me, right? I was like, no, we need to go. So we got a group of about 20 people to meet us at a Publix nearby, near the park. And then we sent people out, and actually a friend with her mom happened upon the car at Wekiwa Springs State Park.
And that was the Monday then?
That was Tuesday.
That was the Tuesday.
Because Monday we started sending out flyers on social media. And then Tuesday morning, actually Monday evening, we had another friend who lived in that area. She said, I'm gonna go out to certain areas to search for her. And for some reason, when she went into Wekiwa Springs State Park that day, and the parking lot that she was found, you guys have been there.
Sand Lake, right?
Sand Lake. It's kind of deep, right? It's the farthest parking lot. So when she was going out there, she says that a ranger turned her around and kind of said, hey, there's nothing really back there. Like, just, so for some reason, she was turned around from reaching that point on Monday. So we could have found her on Monday if she hadn't been turned around.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Do you know, I know that we went there looking for her. I know that you have to go through a front gate, like you got to pay or, you know, see a ranger there. Is there surveillance there?
There's not.
There's not.
There's a picture that says you're being recorded, like one of those signs that tells you there's a camera. It's right behind them. So when you're checking in, if you look right behind them, it says that you're being recorded, but none of their cameras are working. They have cameras, but they're actively not working right now. So the only thing to notate that she was there and what time was a parking permit, which we, not a parking permit, it's the receipt. It's $6 that you have to pay for the entrance, and it stamps the time that you went in. So she went in at 8:30 a.m. on Saturday. And
The 18th.
the 18th, correct. Saturday.
8:30 a.m.
Yes. And then the park opens at 8 a.m. So she was there pretty early, which all works out in the timeline where when she deposited money, when she took the e-pass, it all works out. Like.
So going back to the ATMs, did she make large purchases at the ATM, or did you? I know you said that you looked online on her activity. Have you seen any abnormal transactions, or did they all look normal?
They all look normal, and the reason why we believe she deposited money, based on us knowing how she goes about finances, is her pet insurance was gonna, be charged coming up these days. So she deposited money in so that could be covered, and then she deposited more money so that she can have.
So they were deposits, not withdrawals.
Correct.
Okay.
So it covered any bills that were happening. And what I'm thinking was anything that she was going to spend throughout the day or upcoming days, she deposited money.
So they ended up, the authorities ended up finding her vehicle there on that Tuesday then.
Yeah, so we found, a friend found the vehicle, and we reported it to authorities. It was Tuesday the 21st at 3:30 p.m. We came up on the vehicle and immediately called 911, let them know we didn't want to touch the car.
So you went there before the authorities to see the car?
Yeah. So I was there, and then authorities came because we made it. All 20 people that were searching made it there. The emotions were running high, and we opened up the car once to just see if she happened to be sleeping inside the car or something like that. Just happened for any reason to be there. She was not. At that point, I wish and I recommend for anybody that, I don't recommend this situation and I don't wish it upon anybody, but if you are in this situation, to record everything. Take out your phones. There's not a better moment to record everything, because law enforcement at a certain point, because of it is a crime scene or whatever it is, they will shut you out. So if you want to start your investigation on your own as a family, record everything, because I wish I would have known exactly where, a pen was laid. I wish I would have known everything, because they did go through the car. They did not run forensics on it, because at this time, it is not a criminal case. So no fingerprints have been ran on it, nothing like that. And then they moved everything. So even that, as a family member, like you just know, like I'm sure if you have children, if you have sisters or whatever, their habits. If she charged her phone, like that to me, and I texted detectives to ask them, but I haven't gotten a response back. I wanted to know if the charger to the phone was plugged in, because then that would tell me why her phone died, at 11:30 a.m. Like just little details as to her behavior.
Did you see anything odd in her car? Like anything odd, not normal, or any type of, like, did she have extra clothes in there or anything?
So she usually does carry a change of clothes, but it's because she goes into water often. So that was there, her backpack, but it wasn't more than one day. It was just a change of clothes. And she had, her phone was in the car, the keys to the car were in the car, and
Her keys were in the car?
Yes, the keys were in the car, and that can go either way, because honestly, it's not, I know that she's gone. I've seen her park at the beach and then walk to the beach, get in there and come back with the keys being in the car. So that has happened before for her, but at the same time, she's never left her phone behind like that. So, and even when you guys were at Otter Camp, when you parked at Sand Lake, kind of to get there, you want to check your phone, right? Like you want to say, is this the right trail? Or you can figure it out, and she is a smart cookie, so she can get there on her own. But from what we know, she hasn't been there before, to specifically Otter Camp. She's been to the park many times, but she, in conversation, it never came up like that specific camp.
But again, her phone was found in the car.
The phone was in the car.
Keys were in the car.
Keys
How about
in
her
the car.
wallet?
Wallet in the car. Everything in the car.
Okay. And this, you would say, the fact that she checked into the park there on 8:30 a.m., drove there, parked. Now, she went swimming. She was seen, photography, video at Otter Campground.
Yeah.
That's a far distance
It is.
from her car, right? So we went down that trail. It seems like there was only like one trail that takes you up to a main trail, and then you make a right and then get there. But it takes like 45 minutes to an hour to
it's
get
1.7 miles. So it's 1.7 miles, and there's actually two ways you can go about it. There's one if you go to the right, and then there's one if you go to the left towards other camps. It actually is the same distance, same time to get there. But yeah, that's exactly, and the video was, according to detectives, because I have not spoken to the independent campers, was taken at 11:30 a.m.
11:30 a.m. that same day.
That same day.
11:30. So she went that far distance without her keys, without her wallet, without her phone. What was she wearing?
So all we know is what we see in the video. So a burgundy shirt, kind of like a sports shirt, which is common for her, and that's all we know. Like, I can't assume her pants because I don't know her pants. And yeah.
What do you think happened to your sister on December 18th at the park?
So honestly, I really don't think it was an animal attack. Like, I really 100, like, you know, I can't be 100% because no one can be, but my heart tells me, the education I've gained, experts and everything tells me that it was not a gator who attacked her. If anything, you guys were out there, disorientation is where I would say is the most likely to have happened. After being at the park and seeing behaviors and just, you know, women go there all the time by themselves. Actually, yesterday I was there, and there was about 4 ladies in different ages who went out for a run, or they were there with their dog or something. One person was camping overnight alone, one female. So that's not odd behavior.
So that doesn't concern you for a single person to walk alone back there?
It doesn't. The only thing is that after that, I have met a lot of gentlemen, and not saying that it could be a female versus male that does hurt. That gave me really creepy vibes.
Right.
So I have met a lot of gentlemen who gave me creepy vibes.
Out there at the park.
At the park, correct. And I've also met specific people that have asked me a lot of questions about my sister. And it's just, you know, your mind starts to wonder, right? Your mind starts to wonder, if she was able to make it all the way there without her phone and keys, which is what we're assuming, why wasn't she able to make it all the way back on the trail? Right? Like, why didn't she go on the trail and make it all the way back? Especially since she wanted to see her niece, my daughter, since she had a plan of what was next, you know, like, and that's the part where I can't explain it, because I really, like, knowing her, I feel like if she would have gone downstream, she would have just gone right back upstream, and I don't see her going very far down that area, because I've kayaked it, and when you kayak it, there comes the point, I mean, there's a really nice area actually. So there's that area, and when you keep going, there's like almost like a sand key. It's so shallow. It's like extremely shallow.
We saw that.
Yes. And when you're in that area, when you're on the weekend, we came across 4 different couples, paddleboarding, sunbathing. It's actually like a really nice day to be there if you want to go. But after that, it gets with a lot of vegetation. So me knowing her behavior, I feel like she would have turned around and been like, I don't want to be in this walking here, so I'll turn around.
How is Paola's, does she speak English?
Yes. Yeah.
Very well. She can read English?
Yeah, so she has better English than I do. She's a professional, you know, very intelligent, educated, super, she's well-spoken, so she's better spoken than I am.
So when we went out, and you went out to Otter Campground, 1.7 miles from where our car was, very first thing you see there is the river. Now, one thing I've noticed, the media at first would say that she was seen swimming in the Wekiwa River, but on the map it looked like it was called Rock Springs.
Correct. So right, the state park is Wekiwa State Park, and I think that's where the media was getting their information. But the springs is way farther down. It's on the other side. So this is the river. So this is considered Rock Springs River, and actually, if you cross the water, which is easily crossed because it's so shallow, that's all it pertains to Rock Springs State Park Reserve. Yeah, so that's the line right there. So, but it is the river, and it's an 8.5 miles from King's Landing all the way up to Wekiwa Island.
So those pictures and video, that was a video, right, of her in the water? It was a video,
and then the pictures are just still shots.
One thing we noticed, and I'm sure you noticed, right there, there's a big sign that says, do not swim because of alligators, do not feed the alligators and stuff. Do you think she saw that, or do you think she just...
So that
what's your
sign,
take on that?
That sign is new. That sign actually, as of the first time we went out there to Otter Camp, it was a way smaller brown looking sign. So the park has updated their signs from what I have seen.
Since this incident happened.
Which, good for everyone that is going out there in the future. But I'm sure she did. But the thing here, and as being a Floridian, honestly, every lake should have that sign, right? Every lake, every body of water should have that sign. If you're at the beach, honestly, there should be a sign of sharks. Like, there's always going to be something. But the truth of the matter is, when I rented my kayak at King's Landing they had no idea I was Paola's sister. They literally told me, make sure you stop at Otter Camp. It is the nicest water along the 8.5 miles. And make sure you stop there. It's the clearest water. Like, if you want to get down, this is the place you can get down in. So, and when you talk to the park volunteers, they all say it is so common to dip in this water. When you look up Otter Camp on Google, you will see pictures of people in the water. So I get it, the sign was just placed there, but it is extremely common. Volunteers say they do not believe a gator. It's not the season for gators to be aggressive. These gators see up to 500 kayaks on a weekend going up and down. When I was there, I saw, oh my goodness, at one point it was bumper cars with kayaks, and then people off of their kayak just kind of dragging the kayak or their paddleboard. So it's just like very, very common.
So you got a kayak specifically to look for your
Yes,
sister.
twice.
Have you ever kayaked prior?
I had kayak, but not the 8.5 miles. So I had kayak from Wekiwa Springs up, but not all the way to King's Landing, because honestly, it takes 4 hours. It's a lot of work.
So you got in a kayak to look for your sister?
To look for my sister
along
twice.
the river banks.
Correct.
Do you feel that those signs should be also in Spanish?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, 100%. If they could be in Spanish and Creole, there's a big Haitian community out here as well. And I am happy that they just changed out the signs, because they are bigger, brighter, and you saw them twice, I believe, right?
Yeah.
That, and also I would love for the park to install trail cameras. Trail cameras, from what I've looked at, can be powered by sun, solar power. And when we were out there, did you guys see any rangers like at any point in the trail?
We saw no rangers out there, and actually later down in this we're going to get into some other questions related to the actual area.
Correct.
And some of the other things. What was the weather like on December 18th, if you recall?
December 18th, I want to say it was a good day, honestly, because I remember cold days, like yesterday was cold.
Right.
And it was a sunny, nice day, honestly, from what I remember. I do know on the 21st, that night was chilly and rainy. I think that was the first night that I could remember that it was chilly, because I was at the park. We stayed there till late with the, investigation going on. And that night is when I felt like, oh my goodness, if you're out here, it's cold.
Yeah, because we were wondering, around the 18th, was the river more active, raging more, and the pictures and the videos didn't seem it. It seemed like when we went out, and probably when you went out, the same type of flow, like just a little kind of like current, right?
Yeah,
it was
calm, but nice flow. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like choppy. It wasn't like like you said, raging or rushing.
And actually, since I kayaked it twice, I can say with going downstream, because I did both downstream and upstream. The current is enough to, if you wanted to not paddle, you could, but you will get there really slowly. So that's how I would describe the current at the river. It's pretty slow. It's actually kind of it's perfect for like the laziest of rivers.
How many times have you been out there since Paola has been missing, looking for her?
Yeah, oh my goodness, a lot. I want to say like definitely every weekend, and mostly once a week.
Do you go by yourself? Do you go with a group?
With a group. So usually I go with a group. I have gone out. The only time I went with less than 10 people was once, and it was with a mission of working with a specific search and rescue who were planning their search.
So what are you thinking when you're out there? Like what are you just hoping today's the day I'm going to find her?
Yes, 100%. There was one day where I felt like that was the day. Like I don't know what came over me. I just felt like it was the first day that I went really deep into the woods, like really, really deep. And for some reason, I just felt that she was there in that moment. But then when you don't find her, every time you leave, you're defeated. Like I must admit, and there's been times where I leave and I'm just like, goodness gracious, like when is this gonna happen for us? I have started to feel a little helpless, but you start to feel helpless because you want more involvement. Like you want more. Actually, when you guys were out there, you saw some orange tapings.
Yes.
So that was a part of our search and rescue efforts, and it's because we found some footprints that match her shoe size near the water. And
that was probably about what, a quarter mile down on the down from Otter Campground, on the right on the river banks, right? It was like a square, and it was marked on the tree right on the river there, right?
Yeah, so we have been marking what we can, but here's what happens when we're out there and it's civilians, right? Like, because we've gone out and then sometimes we go out with search groups and cadaver dogs and life scent dogs and everything. But we only have so many tools, right? So, okay, now I found these footprints, but if I don't get the right expert to come tell me if this is my sister, because there's a way to measure if the height is hers. If that was, you know, they can measure height, they can measure direction of where she was heading to. But it's hard. It's hard to get the law enforcement back up there.
That's what I was going to ask. The search group that you have, is it friends? Is it some sort of organizations, community?
We've had both. So we have family and friends who go out there every time I go. And then we also have organizations. So thus far, we've worked with Florida Airport Search and Rescue. We've worked with a group of veterans. Actually, yesterday, a big group of veterans came. Even from South Carolina, drove all the way down. And then we've worked with Peace River Search and Rescue. And then I have other names, but they're smaller organizations. I haven't learned them just yet. I know them by name. But yeah, we've done it both ways.
So how do they, so they just reach you on Facebook or call you to say, hey, we want to help, or how can we help?
Yeah, so actually, I reached out first because as soon as the investigation was over and I started doing more research, because you know, at first I felt I was convinced that Orange County had done what they could, right? I hadn't been out there to Otter Camp because they blocked us from going there. Immediately they started, we couldn't go in there. But as soon as I went into Otter Camp, I was like, no way they searched all of this in 2 days. There's just no way that they did a thorough search, boots on ground.
When you say Orange County, you mean Osceola County or Orange, or both?
Both, because Orange County, the park is jurisdiction of Orange County, so they are the ones who assisted Osceola in the search. So their ERT team, emergency response team, they're the ones who led the search at the park. Osceola was just there, like 2 detectives, that's it. And then Osceola so they were doing the park work and Osceola is doing the missing persons. Later on January 6th, Osceola decided, because we did put a little bit of pressure on them, to go out there. They bought a sonar camera and they went on January 6th to do a search. I was disappointed with the search because I wanted them, if you have this tool, do the whole 8.5 miles. Like, do it. I've kayaked it, you can get through it, it's easy. For some reason, they only did 2 miles up and down 4 times. The same 2 miles up and down out of 8.5 miles, and I'm just like, that's not enough. If they would have informed me, I would have been there, I would have shown them, because they said there was a tree trunk and I know exactly what tree trunk they're talking about, and there's a way to get around it. They just didn't look. So there's a lot of things that I just, you know, and if they didn't know, then reach out to an expert, reach out to somebody. Make sure that if you're gonna make the effort, do it 100%. Like, don't do it halfway.
That kind of brings me back to, you know, my next line of questioning is, has law enforcement been keeping you up to date with information about this case?
No, they haven't done a good enough job. If you look at my call history, you can see that I'm always the one who calls. I'm the one who calls. One of the times, 2 weeks ago, my dad had to call upset and be like, what's the update? What is the update? Right now, their technique, Marcos Lopez, the sheriff of Osceola, on January 6th at 4 p.m. that said he will not go back to search at Wekiwa Springs State Park. And
Why?
because he says he searched the 2 miles he did at the park, and Orange County did 2.5.
But you're saying it's a much bigger area. It's 8 miles.
Yes, and when you talk to the experts, when you talk to these organizations that are search and rescue that have done like 60 missions, right? They have it up their sleeve, and I would love to ask Marcos Lopez and his team, how many searches in the woods have you conducted? Because at one conversation I had with the detective leading this case, who's also last name Lopez, he said that they don't even have state parks in Osceola. So then I'm like, okay, but you have lakes, you have parks in general, you have reservations, people's backyards have woods in them. So you have to be equipped, and if you're not, reach out to people and activate. They were supposed to activate these groups that I found. They're called CERT teams, and they're certified to do this. And when I called them up, they were all jaw dropped at the fact that they weren't activated. They're just like, and that's the pressure that they started sending out emails to Osceola County that said, why didn't you activate us? You know, you should have passed on the information of what was done by Orange County so that we can continue the search. And then communication, going back to your question, the communication has been very minimal. I have to drag it out of them. I have to call them 3 times to get it. They're quicker with text, but sometimes I text 4 questions before I get an answer.
Right.
And I understand.
So how many detectives are on the case? Is there designated ones? You said Lopez?
Yeah, so there's one, Detective Lopez is from Osceola County, and he's the one on handling the case. I have spoken to his supervisor, Sergeant Chambers, who's responsive. So those are the 2 from Osceola.
Okay.
And over in Orange County, they made it very clear that they were just assisting. So when they were on the case, they were very responsive. But as soon as they stopped their search, then they stopped assisting.
How do you feel law enforcement has handled this case in your mind? I know you've expressed some of your concerns, but overall, how do you feel like they've handled this case?
I feel like they started out, backtrack. When I handed them the information about the ATM and the e-pass, those leads should have been followed up on. So law enforcement dropped the ball there, because if we found the car, they could have found the car. They had the exact same knowledge I did. I told them ATM, I told them e-pass, and I told them behavior. She loves water. And I said search parks. But at that point, but when Orange County took over, they acted quickly. They got groups in there. They didn't devote the right amount of time to it. In retrospect, they did depend a lot on drone footage, horses, and when you're out there, you can see, if you take a drone up there, which I've seen drone footage at this point, you can't see anything into it. There's so many woods, you can't see anything. You can use it for directions, but you cannot use it to search for a person. Horses, they're gonna miss stuff. When you're on horseback, you're gonna miss stuff. This takes boots on ground, slow, detailed, and you have to do a quadrant, and it's not gonna take only 2 days. It is gonna be a week or weeks of search. And then, and it frustrates me, honestly, because when you do research, even with the Brian Laundrie situation, they spent $9 million searching for a fugitive, somebody who committed a crime or suspected of committing a crime. And they spent 2.5 days searching for my sister, who's a civilian, who's an amazing person, who hasn't done anything wrong, who is a taxpayer, who, why are we not searching for these people? And why, when the one time we need law enforcement and we depend on them, why is it a little bit of an effort? Why is it not a full-on effort? And actually, one of the detectives from Osceola County told me on the day that the search stopped, I would be here every day searching if it was my son. So why are you not there every day sending a team? And like I said, if they can't handle that, like if they can't send a group that they, I don't know, money-wise, whatever-wise, which it shouldn't be a money situation because these are citizens when we pay tax. They should devote it then send out those CERT teams.
Right.
Make sure that you hand this off to somebody you trust that's going to take care of this for you. You know, these organizations that are nonprofit or somebody else that can take this over, because what they did, I feel, is like, okay, Orange County, they're done, right? Mm-hmm. All they were still working on was trying to get into the phone, which they were never able to access. And then Osceola would be like, any questions that was Orange County jurisdiction, like we were out there trying to find leads for them, and it was like, oh, sorry, that's Orange County. And then I would reach out to the Orange County detective, oh no, we're not handling the missing persons, that's Osceola. And I literally have this on text, like the bouncing of back and forth. I'm like, I don't care who does it, do it.
Right.
And at one point the Osceola detective even said, oh, but it's easier for them to do it because I have to ask for permission to go on to Orange County. I don't care if it's easier. Do it, like, ask for those things. And then he was out there, 3 days later, because I said that. I was like, I don't care. This is an urgent matter. You're not treating it urgently. This is a human life we're talking about. Mm-hmm. So there's just a lot of things that, and no, I do not think they have been handled correctly. And I think, and I'm going to fight for this to never happen again to anybody else, because it's like I said, I do not wish this on anybody. And to be faced with the brutal reality that this is how missing persons cases are treated, it's unbearable.
So it'd be a fair statement to say you do feel that law enforcement could do a lot more than what they're doing.
100%. They can do a lot more. The way they said it is that the only thing they're doing is social media at this point, which is the new door-to-door, which I agree, social media is amazing to get the word out there. But if they believe, because that's their theory is that my sister is at the park, why did they stop searching until they find her? Whether they think it's a cadaver, whether they think she's still there and needs them, why did they stop searching?
So you said you just said earlier about the phone, right?
Yes.
Did they eventually get into the phone?
No, they didn't get into the phone. They said Orange County tried 2 softwares that were not able to get into the phone. Right now, I had handed them the Apple ID and the password, and they locked me out of it because they tried locking into the phone. I don't know what happened, but we're working on that now.
Do they still have possession of her phone?
No, I just got it last week.
I
just got the phone. Mm-hmm.
So basically, is at this point it's up to you.
At this point it's up to me to do that. It's up to me. I'm working with somebody to do forensics on the car. It's up to me. Everything. Does
the vehicle have any GPS tracking or any type of any?
It does.
Like OnStar or anything like that?
That would have been great. No, we don't.
A lot of people say, and I can tell you just from me being out doing this stuff with not just your case but many other cases, leave it to law enforcement. Leave it to law enforcement. Why are you involving yourself into cases like this? How do you feel about that statement?
Yeah. So I believe that statement because I must tell you that statement came out of my mouth the moment we found her car. The moment we found her car, I told my parents, now they're gonna listen to us. Now they're active. Now they're gonna find her. I told them, we gave them the biggest lead that they could have had. I can tell you now, do not leave it to law enforcement. Work this case from the moment that you have any information. Take it upon yourself, because the way another detective, Sergeant Chambers, told me is that they have only 5 detectives and they get up to 1,000 cases a year, and because of this, people go to the bottom of the list, which is not how it should be. Which I said, then who do we need to talk to change this? But honestly, more than ever, it is if you want to find your family member, do whatever you can and get out there, reach out to organizations, reach out to everybody, have your voice heard, and make sure you're stern with law enforcement from the beginning and let them know they are not going to forget about you. You are not going to go, or your sibling, your family member is not going to go down to the bottom of the list. They're just not, because they will allow it to just fall right in and become a cold case.
Right.
So let me ask you a question. Going back to your search team, your volunteers, your family looking for her, did any of you see any alligators out there at all?
I saw alligators when I started from King's Landing. I saw a couple of them sunbathing by the water, but I'm talking, it's an 8.5 mile stretch and it takes 4 miles to get to Otter Camp. So within the first mile of King's Landing, I did see some. On the way upstream, we ran into a group of girls who said, Darn it, we didn't see any alligators on the way. So she's like bummed that she didn't see any. So after that, we saw no more alligators at that
And
point.
we didn't see any either.
Yeah, we didn't see any.
Did you see any type of wildlife out there that would maybe be concerning?
Yeah.
Boars,
Panthers,
panthers,
No
bears.
panthers. I saw otters.
You
It is
saw
otter
otters.
camp.
Yeah.
So I saw a lot of otters, and I've been out there a lot, so I did see some boars. And then yesterday,
None that were aggressive or anything that while you were out there.
no, and I've learned with boars, they are territorial, so they will protect, but they're not attacking. And they actually will only feed if there is easy prey. Like easy prey is something that's already been messed with or something like that. And we did, a lady yesterday as we were searching said that she saw a bear sighting over there. So, but I haven't seen one myself. And deers, a lot of deers.
A lot of deers.
Mm-hmm.
How do you? We were out there, and I got to say that we at one point got, turned around and disoriented, as you would say. How do you feel about the directional signage in the park?
There's none whatsoever. There's one sign when you start at Otter Camp, and you go to the trail. And actually, for me, it took a lot of learning for me to, when I got there the first day that I was allowed into Otter Camp, I was confused. I was confused myself on how to get to Otter Camp and the two choices. And I'm a very, I need to see it beforehand and all of that. But there was one sign, and then after that there was no more. I don't know if you guys happened upon any other signs apart from the first one that kind of points Otter Camp, or I don't even think they
Right
mention
before
Otter
Otter Camp, we saw a crossroad, like a
Yeah.
crossroad of 4 trails, like right there.
But there's no
Nothing.
signage.
None.
We
And
almost
that's
walked past.
that's a service road, by the way, so that's not a trail. And the service road is what leads to Otter Camp.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
saw tire tracks in the mud, so
Yes.
we were wondering, hey, were rangers out here? Was this law enforcement looking for her?
That
Was it
us
people?
looking for her.
So you took vehicles back
we
there.
took vehicles back there.
What type of vehicles?
4x4s, Jeeps. We've taken out Polaris with search and rescue, which is what I call a golf cart on steroids, because it can go on water, it can go on any terrain. So yeah, we've been out there in car, by foot, we've been out there in kayaks, we've been out there in any humanly possible.
When you go out there, do you go to that Sand Lake parking lot? Is that your base right there?
That's command for us.
That's the command. I noticed there was like a small bathroom house there.
There is.
But there's not much signage to tell you where to go. There's
No.
actually no
Honestly,
signs
Your
to tell
signs gave us more direction.
Yes. of
The
how-
photos of that you guys posted. I mean, you even said search, wrapped it with duct tape and said search. And be honest with you, your photos that you posted of Paola was out there, and that's how we were able to navigate back there, was from your photos.
you. Let me ask you something. Back where she was seen in the water there at Otter Camp, do you know if she was ever there before? You said yeah or no?
I don't believe at Otter Camp. Honestly, I don't believe. She never mentioned it to me. She could have mentioned it to my mom, but my mom knows very little of nature, and they have more conversations about her everyday whereabouts. But I do know that she's very familiar with the park and Blue Springs, Kelly Park, and all of that. So I do wonder how she made it to Otter Camp. I really do.
Like us, we wondered how we would get there, and you know what? How we got there? We used our GPS on our
Yes.
phone, so we were pinging
Exactly.
ourselves and seeing the little blue dot. Makes me wonder because her phone wasn't with her.
And that's why, honestly, I still question that. I question that so intensely about how. And my mom, as soon as my mom was out there, she's like, "How did she get out there with no phone?" So it almost makes me feel like she made it back to the car at one point and dropped off her phone or something, because it's just, there is no signage. There is no signage. So either she just had a sense of, I don't know, clearance of how to get there, or I don't know if she googled it ahead of time. I don't know. It's a really big question mark for me.
So the possibility does exist that at the time she was seen at 11:30ish, going through there, she could have had her phone and her keys
Yes.
on her and just made it back to her car, and then something happened.
Which is
there.
why I want to talk to those independent campers to see exactly how long they were observing her for, or if they literally were camping, cleaning up, ready to leave, or did they see her? I want to know more about.
You were
everything.
pleading. I saw you
Yes.
plead to the media. You want these individuals to come for. How did they present this video? Who did they present it to? How did it get
I
circulated?
believe they presented it to Osceola, and I believe they presented it after I made my first media appearance or something like that. That's what I understand timeline-wise. lives.
So that helps. It helps
It
when the
does.
family comes
It
out and brings
does.
awareness, because possible witnesses or people that might have been there at the time could have little bits of information
Yes.
that could help.
Yes, and that's why I plead so much to anybody that was at any of the Central Florida parks to just look through your phone, look through your memory in your mind, and really say like you happen to maybe have seen somebody with her description, and then or even if you want to reach out to us via Help Us Find Paola Miranda on Facebook and tell us what the activity was like at the park that day, because we would love to know.
And those campers wanted to remain anonymous, and I heard you pleading to this person to come forward that you wanted more information. What would you like to know from them?
Yeah, I would like to know what was happening that day. I would love to know, like I said, if they were at the camp camping that day and at what time they saw her, how long they were observing her for. I do know, based on what they told the detectives, that they saw her up to the point that the river curves. And then I would like to know like what was her behavior. I know a lot of people are questioning what make them want to take this video of her, but in my mind, if they took a video of her, maybe they took a video of somebody else as well, or maybe they noticed somebody else, another female walking alone, another man walking alone. Like, did they see animals? I want to know everything. If they were there the night before on Friday, was it a cold night? Like, I just honestly, I would love to spend a little while, so take like an hour of their time and just go through everything they lived within those days.
So we noticed at the front of the park that there was signs saying park closes at dusk. Do they enforce that, or do they go around and see what cars are remaining to get them out of there?
Never. I've been there after dusk, and actually at one point they gave us the gate code to get out if we wanted to, because they do close the gate code, the gate at the front. And how can I say this? I saw one. I've been there, like I said, so much in the last 44 days. One time did the ranger come up to us, and it was only to tell us to not park on the grass at Sand Lake parking lot, and then he left, and that's it.
Law enforcement says, I mean, we're talking about this, and you're speaking freely, and I love that. But law enforcement, and this comes back to what we were just talking about, doesn't believe there was foul play, but could there have been?
100%. There's nothing to prove otherwise, right? There's nothing to prove that nothing happened to her, that she wasn't taken advantage of or misled or anything like that. Forensics were not ran in the car, so I don't know if somebody got into her car. I don't know if even the ATM images, we've been asking for them, because what if somebody else was following her in a different car? We haven't gotten into her phone. I don't know if she met somebody there or even asked somebody to pick her up from there. Like, there's so many questions that are just unanswered. The phone is so important, the car is so important, and then there's no images of her leaving, like there's no images in the park, there's no videos, there's just nothing. So it's really blank. Like, it's a mystery. It's a mystery. It's a huge mystery. And for them to have assumed that it was nature or disorientation only, or even for me, it's almost the same as assuming there was foul play, because you have not, you can't prove either one.
Any possibility at this point?
Correct.
You're open-minded to anything.
Yes.
Kidnapping?
Yeah, sexual trafficking. Honestly, I've called trafficking hotlines. I've done it all. We posted flyers all over the states. I've reached out to missing persons report organizations all over the states. And that was another thing that we noticed that they hadn't done. Osceola County, we had to submit the nation to post her in the nation, and they have to approve it. It would have been nice if they did that from day one,
Right.
So that the borders could know, so that just in case anything happened. But yeah, 100% everything's on the table, unfortunately.
Do you think your sister's still alive?
It's so hard. It's so hard, because when I go to the park and like you guys get disoriented, I'm like, goodness, what if she is out here? But then being out there so much and not having found not even a clothing article, like, and I'm talking about, we've ran the park up and down. That's what makes me feel like we would have found something, hair particle, a finger, a nail, something. And so that's the only thing that does make me feel like she might be out there. And you don't even know what you want to think, right? Because if she's out there, I know she's not in a good condition, because she would have reached out to us. If she's out there, she's being held against her will at this point.
Do you think your sister can survive this many weeks, 44 days you said, at the state park in that environment?
She doesn't know enough to know like what to eat, but I feel like somebody who has a will has a power, and she's a very powerful person. She's a very she's lived through a lot herself, and I mean, out of anybody in my family, she would be the one to survive. So I mean, God only knows. I feel like she could have a chance. It gets harder to believe that as the days go by, as it gets colder. I do have a feeling, and other people even mentioned it, that what if she walked out of the park? You know, what if she walked out of the park eventually? Like, if you have a will, you just keep walking and walking and walking. So I don't know.
So, like you said earlier, it seems like that river where she was seen swimming on the left is a separate park, and on opposed to the right there. Is it possible she went down that river there, and instead of making a right, make a left into that, what is that called, a preserve? It's
a reserve run, Rock Springs Run Reserve.
So is it possible she got lost in a sense where
side.
she got confused and went to the left and then went into that preserve somewhere? And then I noticed on the map I don't see many trails around there.
Yeah, there's not. So that area is not really a trail area, and I've reached out to that park. They've been very helpful in wanting to drive us out there. You can drive into, specifically like towards the creek, because there used to be old train tracks from what I believe. So there is a road, but what I just heard yesterday, I would have to confirm that this is true, is that it does take an hour drive from the beginning of the park in there, and you need a 4x4.
Yeah, it's just tough terrain. One thing we've noticed was, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I'm so sorry. I did want to say that we've been out across the creek.
So you've been on the other side looking.
we've
How
been.
far off from the river?
So that's where I want to say we went up to 4 miles into the woods, but at a certain point we did turn back around, and we did this with dogs. So we've done up and down on the water to see if we can track anything, off of the river's edge, and then we did it into the woods as well.
So far, with all the dogs, the cadaver dogs, the specific search dogs, no hits?
No hits of anything. No hits of clothing articles. No hits of cadavers. No hits of anything at the park.
So was your team chopping down the palm tree leaves? We saw a lot of cuts.
Yeah.
Indicating that people were searching, right along the riverbanks.
So we did some to open up some areas, but as the days went on, I actually asked them not to, because I don't want to miss out on anything, right? So as the days went on, I noticed I would rather take it slower and lift up the palmettos, and then just lift up leaves, like literally move stuff around, and because if we are looking for these minute details, then that's what it takes.
Right. Now, I heard you on the news, one of the very first, I guess, news broadcasts that you were associated with. You spoke of your sister's medical condition. Would you like to explain those?
So I won't go into super detail, because honestly, if it would be up to her, for her to say. But she was having some health issues that could have caused her to become disoriented, definitely, and even some that could have, she could have potentially had some sort of like a seizure or something in the moment, or something like that. So health could have played a role in this.
Okay, that was my next
The media put out schizophrenia.
Yeah. Which honestly, it hurts me that they did do that, because that was shared only with detectives, so that they would know that she was a vulnerable person. And then Osceola County released them, which they didn't even release that until we found the car, because I had to make my own flyer. They didn't give me a flyer and say, hey, here you go, start posting this to family and friends. Nothing. So then when they finally post their flyer, it says schizophrenia, bipolar, has attempted to hurt herself in the past, but not currently. You don't understand the anger that came into me, because that's not my sister.
Right.
So then now they created a narrative to be told, and as soon as I saw that, I knew that's what they were gonna go with. I knew that they were gonna put their hands up and say, this person wants to be not found, you know,
Right.
which the detectives have told me multiple times. She doesn't want to be found. How do you know that? I'm telling you, my sister would not go more than a day without communicating with her family. She wouldn't have left her puppies behind without care. She wouldn't have missed out on my daughter's first Christmas. We had family coming. There's just so many things that I know, like, when you know somebody, you cannot negate that. Like, you can't negate who we're telling you she is, and she had shown no behaviors.
So you feel it's unfair that they took something that you
Yeah.
were using for them to help them understand who the victim is, and they used that against her.
Correct. And it's a HIPAA violation for them to have shared her diagnosis. And like I said, we were informed by a police officer who's a friend. Tell them so that they know she needs help.
Right.
So that they know she might be confused. It's like an Alzheimer's patient or a dementia or somebody who has diabetes and has no medication.
Right.
It's the same concept. They are a vulnerable citizen, and actually there's a alert that will become effective as of July 1st of this year. It's called the Purple Alert, which they had no clue about. We had to search, and actually a missing organization told me, hey, she qualifies. I just looked it up. There's a new legislation that says Purple Alert. Unfortunately, it's not active, but you know, when I questioned the detectives, they had no clue. And you know what their answer was? Oh, she doesn't qualify for that alert. The alert isn't even active, and they said she doesn't qualify for it. And I encourage anybody to look it up, and she actually qualifies for all of it. And her being without medication for more than 2 days,
Yeah.
100% she's gonna be vulnerable.
Right.
Because it's like any person who's on medication and stable. Soon as you get off of those medications, you're gonna be unstable.
Yeah.
And
But it is a medical condition, and that's
Correct.
the end of the, you know, it's not in her control. It's a medical
it's a medical condition,
and it's controllable through
Yes.
medication.
Yes, and she was stable, and
Yeah.
that was not. We know her, and we know when she needs help, or when she, and even herself, she knows when her triggers are. She knows when to say, "I need help. I need this," and she would have spoken up. Like,
Yeah.
we know that.
So, was she in any relationships, boyfriends, married?
No, not at the time. Not at the time. And you know, she does date. She does date, and she was actively. You know, if somebody reached out to her, she might give them the time of day, depending on what. You know, anybody who's single.
Do you know of any, you know, it comes back to the, you know, could this have possibly been foul play? Was she seeing somebody, or had she seen anybody in that near, you know,
Yeah.
recently prior to her disappearance?
So she was seeing one guy, and honestly, we were immediately surprised by his lack of presence. We had to reach out to him to ask him if he knew of her whereabouts, and all he said, no, I haven't heard from her since Wednesday. That was on Saturday night. And then he has not asked about her. She knows his parents. His parents haven't asked about her.
How does
till
that
this
make you
day.
feel?
Oh, it makes me feel all sorts of way. I mean, I want to assume that he's just not the right type of person, like, you know, morally humane. But I've insisted on the detectives questioning him. It took the detectives so long. I believe it was 5 days from the moment I gave them the address of this person to question this person. And then there's been no follow-up after that. And like I said, he knows how to reach us. He knows how to go about it, and nothing.
Do you know how long, and this is just kind of, I didn't know what your answer was going to be on this. Do you know how long or how many times she had seen this gentleman? Has she seen him for the last few months? Has it been just a couple weeks? I mean,
No, it had been months, and it was to the point, like, my mom knows him. He's come over to her house, her to his.
no concern.
No concern. Nothing. And they know each other from years back, so it's not new. You
So
know?
it's a friendship. So
That-
you would think just out of the friendship, not even in the romantic.
Correct.
Or even
like-
coming out to search?
Yeah, and exactly. And then the thing is that honestly, it was a friendship, and the lines of friendship and dating, maybe they were just starting to explore that. So that's why I want to say, like, she wasn't dating him, but it was a friendship of years. I have images with him at Halloween parties, at Christmas parties, like.
Do you find his behavior odd?
Oh, 100%.
You do?
Yeah,
Okay.
100%.
Do you know, I mean, we kind of covered where everybody has searched in there, so maybe I'll just pass that, because I think we have a good understanding of where the police have searched, where you and your groups have searched. You had a search team out yesterday, Sunday, January 30th. How many people showed up?
I want to say between family, friends, and the search parties, around 100.
Do you plan, is there a next big search coming up soon?
So I have to wait because Mike from Peace River Search and Rescue, he gathered a bunch of data, and he told me it takes about 3 days for him to report back to me and give us some coordinates of if he wants to go back out and where he wants to go back out. And the reason being is because we're reaching that point where it's like we've searched everything, right? So I believe there probably will be one more search from what he was able to tell me yesterday based on what the tools that he used and his team, but I still have to wait for the final answer.
For anyone that wants to search, I mean, are you welcome to that? Anyone to come out?
Yeah, 100%. Anybody, but I do urge them, if you find something, do not touch it, mark it and call 911 immediately. If you want to let me know immediately, I would love to make sure that, it's processed correctly. But definitely, if you want to go out there, any pair of eyes, it's welcome to be out there.
Was law enforcement with you on your January 30th search?
No.
When was the last time that you believe law enforcement was actually out there? The last time they actually searched for your sister?
January 6th.
So when we were out there, we saw markings on trees along that trail to get to Otter Campground. I saw dates of like the 7th and the 8th of January.
That was us.
That was you. It was on like duct tape. Around
that
the trees.
was us. That was us because we are trying to work in quadrants. We're trying to cover as much as we can, be effective with it. Again, we're learning because we're not experienced and trying to do it ourselves. And that was a technique that was taught to us by Search and Rescue.
That one trail by where her car was found, saw a couple of these wooden bridges. But off to the right and the left is immediately swamp. Did you guys go in that?
Yeah, we did.
You guys did?
Yeah.
How far in?
So we've gone. So basically, what we do is we take coordinates on the trail, and then we let Otter Camp or the creek be our end goal. Actually, yesterday, my husband and some group of men took the longest route thus far, and they went really, all the way from the beginning of the trail, all up to the creek, around the creek, and went back into the woods inside. But that's what we're doing, and we've done that multiple times. So we're crossing off coordinates. We're crossing off, okay, we did this, all through the woods. And it's actually, when you're in the trail, those two swamps that you see on the side, that's the beginning. But then as you go deeper, it's not as swampy.
Okay.
It's not as swampy. There is times where your foot will sink a bit, and it's almost like quicksand, honestly, because if you're heavy set, it's gonna sink you in. And we've had a couple volunteers sink, but we took them out. But we've been through it, and it's all walkable. Like, honestly, you can't get through it.
It's kind of odd that you talk about these coordinates. The first time I heard about these coordinates was in Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie out there in that swamp. And hearing you guys say, you and basically your team, you would think that would be what law enforcement is doing out there. How does it make you feel that it's you having to put forth all this time, effort, and resources in figuring out, about these quadrants? Like you said, you never knew anything about it until your sister disappeared. How does all this make you feel related to the hands-on that law enforcement has provided to this case? I know it seems to me that they haven't provided enough resources.
And that's exactly right, because even recently I was asking for the reports on what was done at the park, because I want to know exactly what they did. And I wish the last day of the search, a packet, something should have been handed to the family if they were going to leave it up to us to search. If they did say I would be out here until I found my son, my daughter, whatever, then they should have handed us a package and been like, this is how you should go about it. This is how we search, these are coordinates, and then we can send a representative out to help you and guide you, or we're going to send this organization out or something like that. But it's 100% true. The first day I went out there, I just went out there to walk a trail. I didn't know how I was going to go about it. I wanted to search for my sister. Everyone, I can't tell you the amount of messages, the amount of people that just wanted to go. They wanted to say, I am present, I'm gonna find Paola. And no, I mean, honestly, it is unacceptable. It's unacceptable, the lack of education, knowledge, resources, support, and everything that, like I said, it is like they were there and then they were gone, and then they did what they thought was what they should do, and then wiped their hands off of it. Correct.
Now, if there were other teams or other volunteers, you know, there's a lot of people, we're going to be posting this, there may be some people that just go out there on their own time. What areas of that state park should future searches be focused on?
Yeah, so I would actually, at this point after yesterday, I would like for them to go into the Rock Springs Run State Reserve, going through that side, and try to get to the creek. The rangers on that side are very nice. Every time I've asked them if they can drive us in, they can. You will need a 4x4, but even if you don't want to go that deep, just plot coordinates. So what you do is you drop a pin on Google Maps of when you started, you make a note of those coordinates, and then you have a point of interest. And when you're heading into that point of interest into the woods, because that would be what we would love for people to go into the woods, and you just have to have a point of interest where you are going to, and the shadow on your Google Maps shows you like you're going to that point of interest. Indian Mound Campground is a great point of interest. Indian Mound Campground, because that is right across from Otter Camp.
Yep, on the other side.
On the other side. So that's a great point of interest for anybody that just wants to go into the woods and find a trail. If they can provide that to me via help us find Paola Miranda, that would be great, because then I can track that on my end.
So we're actually, that's what we discussed that we were going to do Thursday and Friday.
Yeah.
Yes,
Going from the
wonderful.
other side of the park, like you
Wonderful.
said, and go and shoot downward towards
Yes.
the river there.
Yeah.
So we're on the left side there
That
of the
would be
river
great.
side. And anybody, you know, if anybody on your end want to come and join us,
Definitely.
we
I
will
will
work
let
as a
them know.
unified front, and we will.
I will let them know.
We should be there, I'm assuming, around 11 a.m. on Thursday.
Wonderful. I'll
And we're not
communicate that
leaving
with
the
you guys.
area until Saturday morning.
Anything else
wonderful.
you'd like to say? Final thoughts? Anything?
So honestly, final thoughts, I mean, I have a lot of them, but if there's anybody out there that has a potential lead that can guide us in a better direction, that would be number one, so that we can know more about what happened within those days, December 18th, December 17th, evening leading up to now. Like if you have anything, please memorize my sister's face, just in case you happen upon her out and about. Communicate. I urge people to make statements, because I've come across a couple of people at the park that said that they might have seen her, but then they don't want to make a statement, which to me it blows my mind that they wouldn't want to make this official statement, right? And then I urge people to reach out to your representatives about this case. Every representative, doesn't matter where you're, what area, what district you're in, let them know that missing peoples are being left behind. Missing persons are not being looked after. There's too many cold cases out there. There's not enough resources for them. And it's amazing that there's groups of people like this one right here that are willing to take their time and efforts to go do this on their spare time and make this their mission. But it shouldn't be up to regular civilians. We have law enforcement. We have a government that's made for this, that's supposed to be there when we need them. We are tax-paying citizens. We're good citizens. And we should be able to turn around, ask for assistance, and feel like you're not being left behind, being left feeling like you're an annoyance.
Please stay strong. We pray for you and your family. We'll
you.
continue to help search. Anything you need from us to share, we're here. We'll share out your message. Any updates, you can come to us. We'll share it out.
Thank you so much.
We'll do our part, you know, and hopefully others can help, and hopefully you guys can get answers soon.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Here, give me some love. I know this has got to be very hard for you.
It is. Oh my God. Thank you, because people like you makes such a difference.